Hey everybody, just wanted to do a quick tutorial video on how I am modeling these ball paths in OnShape. All right, cool. So starting off, let's begin by defining the profile of our ball path. And by profile, I mean if you were to picture the ball path in your mind and you were to take a thin slice of it, what would that thin slice look like? That's what we're going to draw. So I'm going to start by making a sketch. And of course, because we're designing this around a pinball, I'm going to draw a pinball first. So technically, the dimension of a pinball is 1 1/16 of an inch, but a quick shorthand for that is 27 millimeters. Now, we're not going to illustrate this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Q, and that will turn that just into a construction line for us to reference. So there's our pinball, and we can decide what kind of shape do we want to be around this. Do we want there to be a square or a circle or whatnot? Now, just for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to choose a circle. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to key it off of this. The center dot here is the center of our pinball. So there's two things that we want to draw, the inner walls and the outer walls. So I will start here with the inner wall, and we'll leave a little bit of a gap just so that there's a bit of space there. And then I will draw the outer wall, and I will dimension this as well to maybe 1/8 of an inch. Now, if we were to just take this profile right here, and let me turn those planes off. If we were to take this profile and we were to extrude it, you can see that fundamentally we end up with kind of the cylinder. It's a tube or a pipe almost, which isn't actually that useful, at least not for this case. We only want half, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a line to our geometry here. That's going to effectively cut this in half. And now if I was to extrude that, you can see that we kind of get what's starting to look a bit like a ball path. Now, the challenge at this point is if you've made it this far, everything else should be pretty straightforward. But the challenge is that, well, how do we make this follow a curve, right? Because we don't just want it to go straight. Maybe we want it to bend around to some angle to go in some place. So in order to do that, there is this tool here in OnShape that is called Sweep. It's the third one over. See, Extrude, Revolve, Sweep. And what Sweep does is it will take a profile. So this face here that I've highlighted orange, that's a profile. It'll take that and it will make this face follow a path. So we need a path and we need a face, and then we can sweep. So I'm going to start by making a new sketch. And what I'll do is I'm going to start here on the center of our ball path. Now there's a bunch of tools that we could use. If I just started with a line, for example, let's say that I made a line there. This is going to be weird, but what I could do here is I could take this profile and I could say sweep this profile and sweep it along that path. And so this isn't usable, but I'm just demonstrating what happens and how sweep works. You can see that it's taken our profile and it's basically followed along that path. Now we can use this to our advantage by doing more complex curves. It doesn't have to be a straight line like this, and in fact, I'm going to delete that. There's a couple of tools that we could use up here, and there's a number of ways that you could do this. The one that I like is spline. So I'm going to select spline, and then I'll just do that. So if we do this though, you may notice I need to reselect this. You may notice that we end up with the same thing. However, the superpower of spline is now if you look at this line, you can see that there are these white dots. And the way that spline works is on either end, there will be these handles. And if you grab the handle and you move it around, you can curve the line. So let's say that I do that, and I do that, and we go back and look, and you can see that we're starting to get kind of a curved ball path. However, there's a couple of problems with this. One is that you can see over here, we still have this point right here, right? Like if I zoom in, you can see it comes to a point, and sure enough, if you look at it, you can see it's not entirely smooth. It kind of clunks in there. The second thing that's kind of weird is, at least at the moment, we don't know what angle this face is relative to that face right there. Well, one of the neat things about these handles is that you can apply both dimension and constraints to them. So let me show you that. Let's say that we want this curve to be perfectly in line with this piece that we already have so that the ball smoothly flows from here into this curve here. There are a number of constraints, but the one I'm going to use is parallel, and we can say that this handle here is parallel with the ball path that we're coming from. You can see there it's snapped, and if we take a look at it, you can see that that's basically a perfect transition now. This same trick also works with other constraints, so any of these other constraints up here, but the one that I also find useful is that these handles can be dimensioned. So I'm going to press D, which is the same as this thing right here, dimension, and we can click the two handles, and then we can describe an angle between them. So let's say that I want this corner to be exactly 60 degrees. Well, if I type in 60 degrees, it's going to give me some weird thing because it's bending it. And so really, I need to describe it as 180 degrees minus 60 degrees, which is 120. I should have just done that in my head, but whatever. Anyways, now what has happened is I have a piece where the entry, of course, is straight. And then this face right here is exactly 60 degrees of a bend from that entry point there. So both of these techniques, the constraints as well as the angles, can let you really control the kind of thing that you are generating. All right, so let's talk about some other tricks, but what I just showed there, maybe that will be enough for you to get started. Everything else from here on out is all gravy and some additional techniques for you to try. All right, so first up on other techniques is sometimes when there are corners, if the ball is coming down fast, it's screaming down here, you may want to add, if I turn it over here, you may want to add more of a wall right here, an extra guard that comes up higher to keep it in. So just to demonstrate this, I'm gonna bring that out another inch so that we can see it a little easier. There are a few ways to do that, which I can show you. So one is that we could just create a sketch on this top plane here, and then maybe we select those points and those points, and we extrude upwards. This is okay, all right? And so we can bring it up just a little bit. So that's certainly one way to do it. And if we fillet it off of the corners here, that would probably look okay. Maybe that could be a little more round, right? So that's kind of okay. That is certainly one way to do it. I'm going to undo that though. Another way to do it is to adjust the sweep profile. And so if we're doing that by adjusting the sweep profile, we could potentially make it bend in a little bit or give it some other character. So I'm going to go back to editing this profile that we started with. And let's see, I'm going to go back in history. So here, this is the sketch where we drew our path. What I'm going to do is I'm going to inject a new sketch into history here. So this, you remember, this part that I'm highlighting is the profile that we have swept. We can extend that profile. So I'm gonna grab the circle tool and I'm gonna anchor it on that point, and then I'm gonna draw a new circle. Whoops. It's important to get those aligned. I'm gonna draw a new circle onto that point. And then let's say that we want to keep some portion of the wall up here. Well, what we could do is I'm gonna draw a line and then we can dimension that. So, whoops. That is not what I wanted. Try that again. D for dimension. I wanted to adjust the angle, and so we can control the angle here. Maybe we want to make it 45, or maybe that's too much, and we want to make it 30, right? It's really whatever your look you're going for. I'll go for 35. Okay, so now when we perform this sweep over here, instead of selecting just this face, we could also select this extra little piece that we created, which gives us that, right? And so now we've got this kind of nifty extra little wall coming up. You can see when I extruded that, it kept it in there. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to sketch on this face because I only want it to be on the corner. And I'm going to kind of do like we did earlier where I'm just going to draw a line. And so this extrusion will just be for that lower section down there. So now we've got this nice embankment, and we could also fillet that. Whoops, whoa, I am selecting too many things here. The reason that it's purple is because these fillets are overlapping each other, so I'm just gonna make it a little smaller. There we go. So this is another way to do it, and the advantage of using the profile is that it's now, the whole thing is curved, so you can see not only is this bottom part curved, but then it curves up. It's like it's hugging the ball. So it's not that one is right and the other is wrong. It's two different looks, and you can decide how you want to approach that.